Since this is a Walking Dead review, there's of course going to be spoilers, so don't act surprised or mad if I spoil the ending or anything. That was your warning, by the way, to click off the video if you haven't played the game yet and want to avoid spoilers. TellTale Games' The Walking Dead is the only game series I know that can make me cry myself into a pool of tears, Alice in Wonderland style. Okay, maybe the second game series to pull at my heartstrings like an emotional ukulele.
And Max Caulfield, don't you forget about me. Never.
Alright, the third game didn't make me break down into tears like a total wuss. I think I spoiled enough game endings to prove that I'm just a crybaby to anger half the people of YouTube in the comments. On with the video. The Walking Dead Season 1 came out in spring of 2012 and was a huge success. It even won the award for Game of the Year, and after playing it back in 2013, I still to this day think it was well deserved. The story was well written and beyond great. The diverse characters were likable with their own developments through the story to make sure you relate to them better, and possibly one of the best game protagonists of all time. Okay, that's a little too much, but Lee Everett was certainly a great main hero of the series and will be mentioned for years to come despite his tragic end at the end of Season 1. His death will forever leave a hole in our hearts that no other fictional character can fill in. Then came along Season 2, and it was okay. Definitely not as memorable as Season 1. The characters weren't as likable this time around since there was just too many to get attached to or even hate, so none of them really had any time to be developed or honestly any reason to be there. The story isn't as strong as Season 1, and to be honest, I can't really think of anything memorable that went down. Despite its flaws, I didn't hate it, but it didn't leave as strong of an impact on me like it did in the first installment. And what the Blink-182 happened to Krista? Are we really supposed to believe that she really died? Clem spent half the game asking people if they've seen her and felt like it was building up to something. Sadly, nothing happened with the missing Krista plot and it went nowhere. Okay, enough about the previous games. Time to give my opinions that don't matter on a video game that was designed to test your humanity. Here's my overall review of The Walking Dead: A New Frontier. Season 2 left us off with many alternate choices that had the potential of leading into yet another great Telltale story. We were left off with so many questions that Season 3 just had to answer. Well, we kinda got our answers. Kinda, sorta, just a little. The E3 trailer dropped in summer of 2016 and we saw that Clem has grown up, but there is no sight of AJ, Jane, or Kenny. Just some nameless dude bro, who will later go by the name Javier Garcia, teaming up with Clementine. This led to more questions as to why there was this rando walking around with Clem, but there is no Kenny or Jane. To be fair, there is an option to go alone at the end of Season 2, but why make it the main choice to make a trailer on for S3? Season 3, I don't know why I said S3. I, of course, being the pessimist I am, instantly had bad thoughts on a game that was yet to be released. When it came out, I played it out of curiosity, and well, I had an indifferent feeling towards it at first, and here's why. Although not directly following Clem in this season, and instead being introduced to the new main protagonist, Javier, we do get a nice little intro showing the life of the characters we are about to be thrown into with on this melancholy adventure, and how they handled the start of the beginning of the whole end of the world thing. It was a great way to tie into the main story that is focused on family and how far you are willing to go to protect them in such a situation as the zombie apocalypse. The flashbacks of the Garcia family before the tragic events is something I really like this season because it gives you a backstory to the characters. You're not just tossed blindly into an unfamiliar scenario where you're expected to learn about each of them as the game goes on. The story really makes you get protective over the family and adds tension to the gameplay because you don't want anything bad to happen to them. Except to Gabe and Kate, ironically, but I'll save that for the character part of the review. Staying with the main mechanic of the series, each choice you make will affect the story and how the events will turn out. Your choices could lead to something good, bad, or neutral. But that's one of the problems I had, surprisingly. There are moments in the game that I felt like none of my choices really made a dramatic difference. Nothing really left me with my mouth open and wanting to go back and change it because I felt guilty. I was usually content with my actions and where it got me this time. But I can safely say that the story itself isn't too bad. I just wish it didn't cram the whole Kate love interest plot so much. Like, gosh diggity damn it, I had no interest in her whatsoever and I tried so hard to tell her that I was not into girls who keep their hair in a braid for 4 years flat. But no matter what you try to tell her and what path you decide to take in the game, she still jumped to conclusions like a hormonal kangaroo and kept pushing herself onto Javi. Now I understand that her marriage with David was hinted at being abusive, but you also have to sit and think that there's a good reason why David has these outbursts. I just really hated the romance part, and it wasn't necessary at all. Sometimes the game even made the decision for me, and I ended up having to take a beating from David anyways after denying all feelings for Kate. Besides, the real romance subplot should have been for Jesus and his badassery.
I gotta admit, man, you're a fucking badass.
You're a real charmer. You know that, through and through.
Oh, you know what they say. Takes one to know one.
That they do.
To describe what this game is all about, it's about doing anything for family and staying loyal to them through thick and thin. It is constantly hammered into your head as the player to do what's right for Javi's family and how his relationship with his brother David will turn out. Oh yeah, and Clem's quest for baby AJ, that's sprinkled in there too. You also got this thing going on with Richmond and his people, the New Frontier, which is what the game is named after, so that's of course the big deal. They're seen as either a community doing what everyone else is doing and protecting everyone from the walkers and bandits, or as a corrupted town led by Satan with odd gray highlights. Due to the traitorous leadership of Richmond and their way of handling things rather irrationally, it has a bad name to outsiders. The citizens of Richmond are given a brand so that it's easier to identify what they belong to, which is the New Frontier, and as might as well be the marking of the Antichrist, because when Clem reveals the brand on her arm, Conrad up and points a gun at the 13-year-old. Which, spoiler, I shot him in between the eyes on both runs because I got the satisfaction of doing so. The first episode was a little dry. Not much occurred except for starting the rivalry between the Garcias and the New Frontier, meeting Clementine, and the death of Marinera Garcia. Ooh, whoops. Sorry, my American slipped out there for a second. It's pronounced Mariana, or Mari for short. Things really start to get interesting in the second episode, ties that bond in part 2. I think it's bond, or bind. I don't know, doesn't matter. That's when conflict really starts to come in and you learn that David isn't dead. Instead, he's leading the same team that killed his own daughter. I'll admit, I love that twist. I couldn't wait to tell him in episode 3 that one of his men opened fire on his little girl. After finding out that David is one of the leaders in the New Frontier, we also learn in episode 3 that another leader of Richmond, Joan, is a two-faced witch with a capital B who can't bake if it were to save her life. The supplies that are stocked in Richmond are from secret raids of other communities led by the fearless leader herself. And of course, to add to the story, Javi and friends decided to dig a little deeper into something that shouldn't have really mattered to them. If it was me and my family, I would have grabbed my family and booked it far away from that train wreck to be. But no, they confront Joan after discovering she's a snake in human skin and are captured. Our heroes. Episode 4 of course leads to a well thought out yet predictable turn of events when Joan blames all the recent crimes onto David and attempts to have him publicly executed. The big decision is choosing between the, I guess, love interest of David, Ava, or Javi's new best friend, Trip. Did I say big decisions? Oh, I meant pointless decisions to have less characters in the story and to kill them off quicker before the season ends. The real choice is whether or not you shoot Joan, and as much as I wanted to feed the incarnate of Dante's ninth layer of hell a lead bullet, I didn't think it was part of Javi's character. I could see the consequences coming out of shooting Joan in front of the whole town, and it could leave the family in danger. And since that's what this whole story is focused on, that's in my opinion the best option. Now what I really want to talk about in the story is the ending. It felt really rushed and I think it could have been done better. Season 1 had quite possibly the most badass and depressing endings to any game I've ever played in my short lifetime. The tight bond developed between Clem and Lee really made you feel the loss Clem is about to go through. The ending was a real tearjerker and a good farewell to our dear hero. Season 2, although not perfect, had great multiple endings. My main playthrough ending was leaving with Kenny, which had me soaking my keyboard with tears and was a great grand finale to the season. You had the razzle-dazzle with Jane and Kenny, the hard choice of putting Kenny down or letting him murder Jane, or leaving one of the characters behind and setting out alone with nothing but a view on how the world works now and a newborn. The ending I got in Season 3 was meh. Nothing truly spectacular occurred. In my story, David took Gabe and ran off only to be bitten by a walker, then died. Gabe had to shoot him before he turned, similar to Clem with Lee. Kate just out of the blue disappears and is assumed dead. 3 days pass, Javi is now in control of Richmond, and Clem leaves to find AJ while announcing that she's coming back for Season 4. Did I say the ending was dull? I take it back. Kate is gone, so therefore that makes up for everything. Alright, in all seriousness, it was an abrupt ending and the finale was just okay. Nothing really screamed awesome sauce to me. I just wish something stood out that ended A New Frontier with a bang.
Javi, you've got to get over there before...
Kate!
No, not a literal bang, but that would suffice me. Oh well, it managed to keep the tradition of making me cry, and that was literally when Javi cut Clem's hair. I'm not joking. Out of the whole season, Clem getting her hair cut made me tear up. Oh yeah, I guess I did get a little watery-eyed during the Kenny flashbacks, but that's nothing compared to little old Clementine getting a trim that reminisced the train scene in the first game. Ooh, I mean me. Now it's time to move on from my own personal opinion about the story that I know people will still get mad over, and go on to the characters. There's quite a few of them, but to save time, I'll cover the main characters. First, we got Javier, a family man and ex-baseball star who will do anything it takes to save those who he cares about. I really loved Javier. He is such a likable character that it's almost impossible to hate him. In a way, he reminds me a lot of Peter Venkman from the real Ghostbusters. They both share the charm and wit.
You're definitely lighter.
Aw, come on, you know the drill. Age before beauty.
You fucker.
Probably overcompensating for a poor self-image.
You okay?
Good work, everyone. Just like we rehearsed.
This is not fun! I've had fun! This isn't it!
Let's just say I wouldn't invite him to my wedding.
Yeah, I wouldn't fucking go.
Good, because I just said you wouldn't be invited.
Do it and die all over again, Slimer.
Yeah, I guess you are a little too old for crayons now.
If anyone else has any other good ideas, please don't share them.
Do you just literally eat shit all day long? Is that why you smell so bad?
No problem. You're new in town, out of the house for the first time in 1,200 years. You want a little excitement. Hey, I can understand that. So, when are you taking the next train out of town?
It's great, and I couldn't ask for a better protagonist for this season. I also love the relationship between Javi and Clementine. Javi is the great example of having the bright attitude in grim situations. Clem believed that everyone in the world has turned hateful, but when she meets Javi, who at first she had nothing to do with, she ends up seeing that there's still good left in a world gone to hell. It's a great bond, but not Lee Everett great. I just enjoy their team up and how Javi changes Clem's outlook by the end of the finale. Secondly, there's the big brother David, who at times is seen as the bad guy, but in my opinion he's just problematic. He's had a lot of loss since the death of his father, and being a retired soldier, you gotta sympathize with the guy and see why he acts so aggressively. Depending on the choices you make around David and how brotherly you are despite the violent disputes, he can become a well-developed character, and you mourn with little shit Gabe and Javier when he dies in the finale. He may not be a total jerk, but he does admit his faults and is aware that he needs to change. I strongly believe that David is not a bad guy and is heavily misunderstood. Then there's Kate. Part of me wants to say just read her wiki page so I can avoid talking about her, but the other part of me is doing a bad impersonation of Emperor Palpatine telling me to do it, and just go ahead and give a summary of her. To sum it up, she's annoying, she's a crybaby, victim card playing little hoochie. Crap, I just described myself there. Oh well, it'll do. Moving on. Oh, alright, I'll say why I don't care for her character that much. Kate isn't too bad. I can see why she prefers Javi over David and how her marriage can be seen as abusive, but there are some occasions where David shows that he cares about his family. I'm not saying that she should stay with David because I can see where she's coming from. I just wish the romance wasn't forced upon Javi. Bros before bro's wife, I guess. That's how the saying goes, right? Another thing is that all she does is whine about David being a class 11 douche canoe and how she fears getting caught up in the walker herd. Whenever something minor occurs, she has this tendency to become overdramatic about it. She also likes to play victim a lot when it comes to the whole reason why the walkers got into Richmond. She does try to redeem herself by trying to make things right by fixing up the town. Then again, she still proceeds to ignore David to his face and get up all over Javi, even after I just put her plaid-wearing ass in the friend zone a few scenes ago. To give a short and sweet version, I thought she complained too much, and those who complain too much get the fake-out fatality. And then the supposed real death later. There, now I can move on. How to describe Gabe? This review's gone on pretty dang long, and not many viewers like to tune in that long. Ben. Just take Ben from the first game, add a dash of season 5 through 6 Carl Grimes in there, and you get Gabriel Garcia.
Great. Another shitty cramped night in our shitty cramped van. Hooray.
Now on to, Mariana, the little sister, the ray of sunshine, the optimistic angel, the sweet-toothed sweetheart. Yeah, she died too early for me to really get to know more about her character. Can't forget about Oh My Darling Clementine, all sort of grown up and ready to serve a fresh can of whoop-ass to anything and anyone. Clem's drastic change from being an innocent little girl caught up in the world of horror and tragedy to a strong young lady focused on survival for herself and AJ was handled very well. You know what hell she's been through and all the loss she's experienced in the last few years. You can understand why she's so cautious this season because you've been on her journey since day one. She had to grow up so fast or she would die. On top of all this, she had to become a mother figure at a young age. I loved her changing character this season, and the way she transitioned from a naive little girl to a badass young lady. I will say this though, I feel like her character was crammed into the story and her addition to it was kind of forced. She felt out of place, and I'm hoping that we go back to playing as her in Season 4. That way, she's not just there in the background staring into the never-ending void of hopelessness. Finally, there's Trip and Eleanor. I could count in Conrad, but I didn't have him long enough in either of my playthroughs, so yeah. Trip is the hard candy on the outside but chewy center kind of fella. At first he's a total ass, but he and Javi form a decent bond with one another, and Trip became a cool dude to have in the group. That is, until he finds out you shot his good friend Conrad. Then things get a little awkward. You can thank shithead Gabe for that one. Eleanor is the ex-girlfriend of Trip and puts him in the friend zone in the end, so the whole rebuilding up their romance in each episode was kinda pointless. I had trust issues with her since the first time I saw her. She seemed odd, and after playing both games, I decided to stay with what my gut was saying about this so-called doctor.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
Yeah, she's considered a real doctor, but she does end up betraying Javi and the crew in the end because she couldn't handle the truth. That, or maybe she thought irrationally at the time of hearing about Conrad's death and thought getting Javi out of Richmond would benefit her since she wouldn't have to see him again. Still, I know a snake in the grass when I see one, and I was correct 3 episodes later. Oh yeah, and Paul, or better known as Jesus from the comic and TV series, is here too. I guess it's a bonus to the game for me considering I really love Jesus' character in the entire series. He wasn't out of character at all during the game, and the voice given to him and his video game counterpart really brings the character to life.
I overheard that little argument just now. Your friends over there aren't gonna shoot me, right? You folks have your shit together?
They're good people. They've lost a lot.
Sure. We all have.
Good job, TellTale. Still a little upset that you teased me with the death of Kate twice. But I'll let it slide for Jesus. Now to wrap this mess up, I just have to say don't let my negativity and poorly written review fool you. I enjoyed The New Frontier. It had its moments, trust me, but I just didn't feel as moved by it like I was by the first season. Although it did have heartwarming moments such as AJ's first words being Clem, getting to hug Kenny one last time before the accident, the playful brotherly interactions between the Garcia brothers, and Javi bugging Clem about her crush on Gabe because it feels like she's part of the family now. Hold the Jack Baker welcome to the family clip, folks. We'll use that for another day. It's not at all a bad addition to the TellTale Walking Dead storyline. I just wish some things were executed better and romance wasn't surrounding the whole game. Seriously, Kate and Javi, Trip and Eleanor, Clem and Gabe, and I guess David and Ava, there was something going on between there. If you want to make a good game about losing loved ones, don't shove romantic relationships into the story. Platonic relationships can cause the same amount of grief when tragedy strikes. I would also like to remind you kind folks that this is, believe it or not, my opinion. Other reviews are gonna be different and explained better than this video, but if you disagree with the way I see The New Frontier and how I like or hate the characters, please do tell me how wrong I am in the comments so I can read them and not care. Gee, and I wonder why nobody subscribes to me. Maybe I should flip the table and start being funny instead of being an asshole. This has been another Space Robot review, or whatever I call this stuff. Thank you guys for watching, and goodbye! Oh yeah, and I should also probably rate this thing. 7.5 out of 10. Bye!
David really is trying to look out for him.